Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, the Israeli Defense Forces announced that it recovered the body of the last hostage, Ran Gvili, in Gaza. This brave police officer raced to defend Israel against Hamas terrorists on October 7th, despite suffering from a broken shoulder. He saved dozens of people from the massacre at the Nova Music Festival and was ultimately killed defending Kibbutz Alumim. For 843 days, the Iranian-backed Hamas terror group refused to release his body, but after an intensive IDF search, Ran has finally returned home.
The head of the United States Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper, was in Israel meeting with the IDF's top brass. Cooper held intensive one-on-one talks with IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ayel Zamir, at the military headquarters in Tel Aviv. The IDF released a statement saying the meetings enhanced the close strategic relationship between the Allied armies. Senior U.S. negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were also in Israel ahead of the arrival of the American aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, to the Middle East. The IDF chief of the Northern Command said Israel is preparing for the possibility that a U.S. strike on Iran could trigger retaliation against the Jewish state.
The leader of the Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon has warned that a war with Iran will ignite the region. Naim Qassem vowed that Hezbollah will confront American threats to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The terror group held rallies throughout Lebanon to express support for the leaders of the radical Islamic Republic in the face of what they called American Zionist sabotage and threats. Speaking to the crowds, Qassem warned that any attempt to harm Khamenei would assassinate stability in the region and the world.
Jared Kushner believes that President Trump's plan for Gaza will be what he termed a catastrophic success. Kushner was optimistic about the possibilities for the future of the war-torn territory. He presented slides of the planned reconstruction of the coastal enclave that includes a seaport and an international airport. Kushner said Trump plans to bring free market principles to Gaza, reflecting the same approach that he is implementing in the United States. He stressed that there is no plan B for Gaza, only President Trump's plan, and that now is the time for Hamas to disarm. Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed this sentiment, calling on the terrorist group to comply immediately. Rebekah has more on that.
Yes, Yochanan, the time has come for Hamas to disarm, and both Israeli and American leaders are demanding that the Iranian-backed terror group demilitarize and surrender immediately. Speaking at a special Knesset session honoring Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "The next phase in Gaza is not reconstruction. The next phase is disarming Hamas and demilitarizing the Gaza Strip." Jerusalem announced that it is reopening the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza in preparation for Phase 2 of President Trump's plan, but insisted that in order to move forward, Hamas must no longer pose a threat to the Jewish state.
An international conference on combating antisemitism took place at the Knesset, drawing lawmakers from around the world to Jerusalem. The two-day event was organized by Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Shikli. It was designed to help Israel cultivate ties with political partners around the world to combat Jew hatred in their home countries. Shikli told the international lawmakers that the rise of global anti-Semitism after the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel is a civilized struggle between Western nations and jihadist Islam. He said Europe has become increasingly vulnerable to a takeover from within by ideological forces that do not share its democratic values. The event was held on International Holocaust Memorial Day, highlighting the importance of fighting anti-Semitism.
Israel's first National Sea Turtle Rescue Center is set to open next month. The center, located in the Alexander Stream National Park, aims to rehabilitate the dwindling population of green sea turtles indigenous to the Mediterranean. The park will be staffed with experts in emergency animal medicine and research assistants to manage turtle nests on the adjacent beach. This facility will house the world's only breeding program for green sea turtles.
Turning to sports, and it's a first for the Jewish state. Israel's bobsled team has qualified for the Winter Olympics. Team captain and pilot Adam Edelman said, "Dreams do come true." He added that the Israeli bobsled team is now the Israeli Olympic bobsled team, and we are headed to Milan. Israel's Olympic Committee described the victory as a historic achievement and wished the squad good luck in their upcoming competition.
The United States Department of Treasury has announced sanctions on 6 so-called humanitarian NGOs operating in Gaza for their ties to terrorism. The Treasury also sanctioned the Popular Conference for Palestinians Abroad for its support of Hamas's Izz al-Din al-Qassam brigades. In the statement, the Treasury accused Hamas of operating a network of organizations in Gaza that purports to be independent, hiding their ties to terror to raise funds from overseas donors.
The death toll from the brutal crackdown on demonstrators in Iran continues to climb. According to an Iranian opposition news outlet, the fanatic Islamic regime murdered 36,000 protesters on January 8th and 9th. The source claimed that at the height of the demonstrations, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei ordered security forces to crush the protest with any means necessary. This led to the bloodiest massacre of civilians during street protest over a 2-day period in history. The radical Islamic Republic claims to have postponed the execution of dozens of dissidents, but the slaughter continues. Sources on the ground say that as many as 3,000 people have been killed since the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps regained control of the streets.
Brazilian presidential candidate Senator Flávio Bolsonaro was in Jerusalem last week, where he vowed that if elected, he will move his country's embassy to the undivided Israeli capital of Jerusalem. Bolsonaro told the Jewish News Syndicate that he will move the embassy during the first 6 months of his mandate. He said, "I hope that God will help me and Brazil to have another friend of Israel in office." Bolsonaro, the son of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, vowed to continue his father's legacy of friendship with the Jewish state. He said it is his honor to defend Judeo-Christian values and to show the Jewish people that the Brazilian people support them.
A new archaeological study of the now destroyed murals from King Sennacherib's northern palace may have held the oldest depiction of Jerusalem. In the mid-19th century, British archaeologists excavating near the modern Iraqi city of Mosul cataloged and photographed 33 carved panels showing the military exploits of the famed Assyrian king. In 2016, ISIS fighters invaded Iraq and destroyed the treasures of ancient Nineveh, including Sennacherib's palace and all of the remaining relics inside. Archaeologists studying the original pictures believe that one panel was misidentified and that it was actually the oldest known depiction of Jerusalem. The study, published in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies, argues that the depiction on the slab fits with the biblical description of the siege of Jerusalem and with Sennacherib's own records.
The Israeli tech industry continues to grow, and 2025 was a record-breaking year for cyber exits in the Jewish state. According to data released by Cybertech Global, Israel's tech sector had a total exit value of approximately $72.6 billion in 2025. This includes deals signed but not yet completed and reflects an increase of more than 1,500% compared to 2024. The tech sector also broke records in raising capital. In 2025, cyber companies raised an astounding $8.27 billion, surpassing the previous peak in 2021.
In medical news, the Jewish state has set the record for the largest number of living kidney donors. Matnat Chaim, the organization that organized the mass donation, confirmed that over 1,000 living donors gathered to celebrate the achievement. Judy Singer, Vice President of Operations at Matnat Chaim, said the event was a wonderful demonstration of solidarity and generosity in Israeli society.
Jews around the world are celebrating a victory, bringing all faiths one step closer to freedom of religion on the Temple Mount. Located in the old city of Jerusalem, Mount Moriah is the holiest site in Judaism. It was the location of both Jewish temples and holds enormous significance to all faiths. Unfortunately, the Temple Mount is controlled by the Muslim Waqf, which heavily restricts non-Muslim visitation to the site, and until recently, strictly forbade Jews and Christians from praying there. Despite facing harassment and even violence at the site, brave Jews and Christians have continued to ascend Mount Moriah. Lately, they report being allowed to pray openly, and for the first time, they were able to bring written liturgy to the site.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. We're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Alex Traiman. He's the CEO of the Jewish News Syndicate. Alex, thank you for being on the show.
Great to be here, Josh.
Tell us a little about what is the Jewish News Syndicate?
Well, we know that mainstream media has been misreporting on Israel intentionally for many decades, and JNS is a source of truth, of accurate reporting and analysis to help people understand what's actually happening in Israel and the Jewish world, as opposed to what a lot of the other media want you to believe is happening.
We see the rise of fake news everywhere. You know, it's paramount here in Israel. We're seeing a lot of fake news about Israel and what's happened in Gaza and what happened during the Seven Front War. But we also see it now in Iran. I mean, the reports out of Iran are just parroting the Ayatollah's talking points. What's really going on in Iran?
Well, these guys are the kings of propaganda, and what we've seen is thousands of people being mowed down on the streets. This isn't the first protest in Iran, by the way. The Iranian people are protesting about a lack of water, about a lack of electricity, about a lack of internet, about their currency being like a millionth to the dollar. They're sick of these Ayatollahs who have been spending all their money on Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and they want their country back.
Yeah, but the massacre is just outstanding. Some of them, people are reporting from within 40,000 dead and like 350,000 wounded, 10,000 blinded on purpose. Yet you don't see this in the mainline media.
Right. Where is Greta Thunberg? You know, as the President Herzog said at the World Economic Forum, where's Susan Sarandon, Cynthia Nixon? Where are all the human rights protesters protesting about Iranians being gunned down by their regime in the streets? You don't see it anywhere. And this regime will do whatever it takes to put down this revolution.
So where are they? They just don't care about the people? It's just against the Jews that they are, or against Western society? Why aren't there the thousands of, actors from the Film Guild saying, stop the war? And why is there a deafening silence here?
No Jews, no news, Josh. These and the Iranians, they're the ones that have been funding the whole terror network that's been attacking the state of Israel. So ironically, they actually support this regime.
Do you think they actually support the regime, or are they mad at the Iranian people because they're supportive of the Jewish state?
The Iranian people don't necessarily love Jews, right? They haven't been taught that. But certainly this regime has made a geostrategic target against Israel and has used all the money that they have to build nuclear weapons and build ballistic missiles that can attack the Jewish state.
We see the rise of the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah. People are, in every video I see, saying, long live the king, come back to Iran. And he talks about the Cyrus Accords. He wants to make a peace deal with Israel. What do you think this is going to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a complete inversion of what happened in 1979 when Reza Pahlavi's father, the Shah, was exiled and Ayatollah Khomeini was brought from Paris back in to lead a revolution and take over Iran. You're seeing exactly the flip of that right now. And Reza Pahlavi absolutely would be a friend of Israel. He's a friend of the Jews. He's talked about developing what he calls here the Cyrus Accords, which would be a normalization agreement between Iran and the state of Israel. I hope that the United States puts their full backing behind Reza Pahlavi as a unifying force that can lead this revolution to conclusion.
Last week I was at the antisemitism conference in Jerusalem, and a lot of the people who were there are big conservative leaders, and I've seen a lot of news in the JNS about them, but you don't really read about these people in other news sites. Is it something that you guys are seeking out, or are they seeking out you?
It goes both ways at this point. I had the opportunity to interview Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, at this conference, and I also got to moderate a panel on denial and fake news as deception. And so it is an opportunity to bring to light topics that other media just simply aren't covering.
It seems that there's just a handful of media outlets like Israel Now News, JNS, Fox News, Newsmax, that are really just telling the truth about very simple issues that anyone can figure out if you just look at them. How are they able to concentrate so much of the world media on one narrative that's completely false?
Well, it's a top-down directive, right? So they're all getting their information from the same sources, and they have developed a strategy. The Prime Minister calls this the eighth front of the war. And really, it's actually, in many respects, the first front of the war, because it's the front where our enemies actually think they can beat us. And so you see Al Jazeera at the head, AP, Reuters, New York Times, BBC, CNN, all colluding, all using the same talking points. And there's only a few people out there, a few media agencies that are reporting, just using basic common sense about what's actually happening here in Israel.
Back to Iran, there's a sense that the Iranian regime can finally fall. This terrible dictatorship is on its last legs. This would have an incredible impact on its proxies, Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. What do you see as the future?
Well, this is, like you said, this is the head of the terror octopus. Those are just tentacles. And Iran has been destabilizing the entire Middle East. They've been destabilizing Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Yemen. And if they're out of the picture, what you can really see is the rest of the Middle East start to fall into line. And these normalization agreements that we saw with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain could expand. We could see normalization with Saudi Arabia. And what we could see is finally an economic corridor being created, which I know is President Trump's vision, to set up an economic corridor going from India through the Middle East, bringing goods all the way to Europe. So you could see a period of normalization and prosperity.
Alex, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Where you get information is so important, and I think that it's really important to understand, if you care about Israel, to be getting your information from a source of information that is based in the state of Israel. We're centered in Jerusalem. We've got a big bureau here. We're reporting news, giving analysis to help you understand what's going on and to give you the tools that you need to educate others. So I urge people to go to jns.org, sign up for the newsletter, download our app, and see analysis like my JLM Minute podcast on JNS TV YouTube channel.
Thank you, Alex, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
Reza Pahlavi was born in Tehran in 1960. He's the eldest son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last monarch of Iran. He was raised within the royal family during a time of rapid modernization. Reza was educated in Iran, Switzerland, and eventually the United States. As the crown prince, he was being prepared for leadership. He enrolled in flight training with the U.S. Air Force in 1978. Just as the unrest in Iran was reaching its peak. By early 1979, the monarchy collapsed. Protesters filled the streets, driven by anger over corruption, inequality, and repression. But the revolution that followed did not deliver democracy. The Ayatollahs seized control, executed thousands of regime opponents, and imposed a hardline Islamic theocracy that still rules Iran today. 19-year-old Reza Pahlavi remained in the United States. He never returned to Iran. While in exile, he earned a degree in political science from the University of Southern California and continued to train as a pilot. But he gradually took on a different mission, advocating for a free and democratic Iran. He did so not as a claimant to the throne, but as a national figure urging nonviolent civil resistance and a secular government chosen by the people. Over time, his message gained clarity and consistency. Iran's future must belong to the Iranian people, and no single ideology should dominate the state. From the 1990s onward, Reza Pahlavi published books, gave interviews, and met with diaspora communities across Europe and North America. He condemned the tyrannical Iranian regime's human rights abuses and warned about its nuclear ambitions. He pressed Western governments to stop appeasing Tehran and to support the Iranian people instead. In speeches and writing, he framed the battle not as one between monarchists and Republicans, but between brutal repression and liberty. Reza Pahlavi became a unifying figure during multiple waves of protest inside Iran. In 2009, when millions marched in the Green Movement, he amplified their call that asked, "Where is my vote?" In 2017 and again in 2019, he supported demonstrators seeking jobs, dignity, and an end to fanatic clerical rule. And in 2022, when the Woman, Life, Freedom uprising swept across Iran, he publicly backed the protesters and called for a coordinated international response. He also began working more visibly with Iranian opposition groups abroad, Kurds, Baloch, labor organizers, and women's rights activists. His goal is to build consensus around his 100-day transition plan that includes a national referendum to choose Iran's future government, a short transitional charter to ensure basic freedoms, and competitive elections that reflect the country's diversity. In recent years, Reza Pahlavi has also engaged with foreign governments. In April 2023, he visited Israel, becoming the highest-profile Iranian figure to do so since 1979. He stood at Yad Vashem on Holocaust Remembrance Day, placed a prayer at the Western Wall, and met with Israeli officials, engineers, and Iranian Jewish communities. His message was clear. The Iranian regime's hatred of Israel does not represent the Iranian people, and when Iran is free, cooperation can replace conflict. His trip was broadcast widely in Hebrew, English, and Persian. He used the opportunity to explain his vision: no nuclear weapons, no proxy wars, no persecution of minorities. In its place, a peaceful secular state that protects all citizens equally and reconnects with the world.
After the coup in Iran that brought down the Shah, Reza Pahlavi moved to the US as a child. Growing up in America, he was able to learn about freedom and democracy. This will have a major influence on his leadership.
Today, Reza Pahlavi's name is widely recognized inside and outside Iran. He has no official title or position, but his platform is stable and grounded. He does not call for a return to monarchy. He does not seek revenge for his exile. He seeks dignity, rule of law, and the restoration of national pride through an accountable government. The fanatic Islamic Republic has ruled Iran for more than 45 years, but it has not erased the memory of what came before or the hope for what comes next. Reza Pahlavi's story is one of persistence and positivity. He carries a message not from the past, but for the future, that a free Iran is possible and its people deserve to choose it. From Jerusalem, this is the truth from Zion. Up next, shining light from Israel.
The Old Testament tells us how people that are shepherds and farmers lived at the ancient time. These scriptures come to life, connecting you to the people of Israel. Here we are in Neot Kedumim, the biblical landscape reserve in Israel, the biggest botanical garden in Israel, which sits on the slopes of Samaria Hills, which are behind me, and located in the area which is called Modi'in, the land of the Hasmonites and the Maccabees. This reserve spreads on 625 acres. These hills are dotted with olive groves, vineyards, wheat fields. So join me to explore Neot Kedumim. In Neot Kedumim, the scriptures come to life. Visitors can tour the land. You can learn how people lived at the ancient time. See the different plants that are mentioned in the scriptures. You can also plant trees, put your roots in the land. You can herd the flock and learn how to be a shepherd. You can meet a Torah scribe and understand his work. You can make your own biblical meal on open fire. You can feel the Bible. And when I say feel, I mean with all your senses. You can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. Most of the shrubs and some of the animals mentioned in the Old Testament, the New Testament, Mishnah, and Talmud. The main idea in this reserve is to put the text in its context. And when we talk about the text, we talk about the Old and the New Testament. And to understand it, we have to go back in history time to the time of the Israelite in the land of Israel. At the ancient time, when the Israelite entered this land, they became shepherds and farmers. The herd, the flock which is behind me, is a good example for that, because we have a whole chapter in the book of John, chapter 10, that talks about the importance of the herd, which is the people of Israel. And when you understand it, you can understand why is it so important, and this is what we do here in this reserve. Here we are near a cistern, 2,000 years old. Picture it, because you can see it's an old stone. One of 64 cisterns we found here in this Jewish village from the time of the Second Temple, the time of Jesus in the land of Israel. The Old Testament tells us in this land the most important thing is water. You cannot live here without water. It rains only half a year without a drop of rain. So for that, you need a cistern. This cistern collects rainwater. And if you don't have this water, you will have to leave the land, like Abraham did and like Jacob's sons did. We have a special program for family groups. Small groups can come and enjoy everything. Sheep herding, a tour, and tree planting together in one package, because here you can actually understand the people that lived here at the ancient time. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you here in Neot Kedumim.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.